Hey everyone, and welcome to Skillcapped. My name is The King Live, and today we're bringing you 10 pro tips to carry as Jett in Valorant. She's oftentimes regarded as the most overpowered agent in Valorant, and it's for good reason. She can do things that just no other agent can do like her. Her mobility just makes it so difficult for uncoordinated teams to deal with sometimes, and that's why pretty much every single game you will see a Jett on both teams, because she really is just that strong. But she's only strong if you know how to play her, so that's what we're going to teach you today. But before we get into it, I get to introduce our question of the day, which is, who do you think is the best Jett player in Valorant right now? There's lots of Jett mains in the Valorant community. I want to know who you think is the best one, so be sure to drop those names in the comments section below, and let's start out our guide with the very first combo you need to learn when playing Jett, which is using your smokes to protect yourself when engaging onto a site. I'm going to keep it straight with you guys. It's really hard to carry when you're dead, and it's really easy for you to die when you're dashing onto an uncleared site with no cover. Now, if you've already got the dashing onto site part down, congratulations, you're almost playing Jett correctly. You should be dashing onto site to engage for your team, because this is going to apply pressure to the enemies and make it difficult for them to pick which target they want to engage with. However, because your dash leaves you vulnerable and exposed to many angles, what you want to do before you dash is prepare it with a smoke so that after you dash, you aren't sitting out of the open like a sitting duck. Because of this smoke now, you are able to strafe out of any side of the smoke, making it more difficult for the enemies to kill you immediately after dashing, but also providing 2 attacking points for your team to converge on an enemy. This sort of engagement is Jett's bread and butter when entering for her team, so it is crucial that you practice this and learn good spots in which you can engage safely onto your sites. Lastly, one really important thing to remember with this tip is that when you are exiting your smokes on the site, rather than running directly out of the smoke, you're going to want to strafe out of them sideways. You do this for 2 reasons. The first one is that when you exit pretty much any smoke in the game, you're going to want to strafe out of them, because if you exit them running forward, the enemy's going to see your gun far before you see them, meaning they will easily land the first shot on you. The second reason is that if you're strafing out of the smoke, rather than running straight out of it, you can effectively counter strafe, reducing the amount of time it takes before you can get an accurate shot off. Because Jett smokes are a really important tool in her kit, it's very important that you remember this tip. One of the biggest differences between a good and a bad Jett is how she uses and plays around her smokes, so keep this in mind as we are going forward. But before we move on to our next tip, if you guys are really looking to improve, I highly recommend heading over to skillcapped.com and checking out our hyper improvement system. We have up-to-date lineups, courses on how to climb with every agent, Smurf commentaries where a high rank player walks you through how to carry in your rank, and so much more. Come join over 500,000 satisfied members, improve that KDA, and get the rank that you've always wanted at skillcapped.com. Link in the description below. Anyway though, staying on the topic of smokes, one other thing that you really need to learn how to do on Jett is how to play around your smokes effectively. The way a lot of you likely look at smokes is that they are a tool used to block off an area and deny the enemy team vision. However, another amazing thing smokes can be used for, especially Jett smokes, is for repositioning and creating cover for yourself where there is none. If you are ever in a bad position as Jett, you can always throw down a smoke and try to either play in the smoke or strafe around the sides of the smoke to try and find an advantage on your enemies. Specifically, a common tactic you will see higher tier Jett mains use is after they get a kill, they will throw down a smoke and use that cover to help them get to safety or reposition around it. It's most important to build this habit when using the operator because of how easily you can be punished after firing, but you should do it with honestly pretty much any gun in the game if you are in danger. To make it really easy to understand, one of the reasons playing around your smokes is so effective is because it's going to make it very difficult for the enemies to position their crosshair at the appropriate position to deal with you. If you're standing in the open, it's going to be incredibly easy for the enemies to just aim at you and shoot you. However, once you drop that smoke, now they need to decide where they want to place their crosshair to deal with you, because you could be anywhere in the smoke. Alternatively, the enemy has the option to decide to spam the smoke if they want to. However, if they don't kill you right away from spamming the smoke, this could be really dangerous, because if you re-peek, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to control their spray and pick up the kill on you. Lastly, another really great thing that you can do with Jett smokes is use them for quick on-the-fly one-ways. You can do this pretty much anywhere on every map. Basically, you just need to get comfortable with the radius of the smoke and just throw it high enough where you will be able to see their feet, but they will not be able to see you. Anyway though, moving on to something that is not smokes, let's talk about knives. Honestly, Jett's knives are part of the reason she is so incredibly strong and competitive, and if you're a skilled shot in Valorant, I highly recommend you abuse these as much as you possibly can. Part of the reason Jett is one of the most desirable agents for players is because she is basically able to have a rifle almost every round of the game if she is playing well, which means that if you are a skilled shot, you always have the ability to snowball around. One of the major parts of Valorant is learning how to manage your economy, but for players who are playing Jett, you can effectively just ignore the fact that your team has no money for the round and just buy full armor and use your ultimate, and suddenly your team has a fighting chance within the round. But how do you use your knives exactly to snowball around? Well, the best way to do this is by using your knives to pick off whichever player you feel is going to be the easiest to kill on the enemy team, and then using your knives to help your teammates retrieve that rifle. It's very important that your teammate picks up the rifle rather than yourself, because as we established before, your ultimate already gives you a gun for the round. I can't tell you how many times we see Jett players on eco rounds kill a player with a rifle, then pick up the rifle for themselves and dash in and die where their teammates can't retrieve the rifle anymore. The goal here is to even out the odds as fast as possible. You want to get the first kill so that you can get a teammate a rifle so that they can get a kill, and off that kill, the next teammate will get a rifle, and you get the idea. Before we move on though, it's really important to mention that when you have your knives, your updraft is your best friend. Now, I'm not saying to go do those cool double updrafts over walls and get yourself killed, but what I am saying is that when you updraft as Jett, you make it very difficult for your enemies to have good crosshair placement to deal with you because you could be anywhere in the sky. It's very easy for me to put my crosshair at head level when you're on the ground. It's not very easy for me to put my crosshair at your head level when you're in the air. Speaking of updraft though, our next tactic that we'll be introducing is something that is incredibly frustrating for me as an Omen main, and that is Jett's dash updraft combo, which is intended to make her very difficult to kill for those close range targets. Now, this is no secret to any of us that when you're in the air, you're very inaccurate in Valorant. The only exception to this being when Jett has her ultimate. However, this combo is not only usable when she has her ultimate. Basically, the most appropriate use of this combo is when you know the enemy team is on the other side of a smoke waiting for you. Potentially on an eco round, if you're afraid of shotguns, this is a decent tactic to deal with those players, or if you have a shotgun yourself, because you will have the advantage even in the air if you have a shotgun. Much like the dash smoke combo though, this is best done when you have a teammate who is ready to peek off of your contact. Otherwise, it's entirely possible that you would just dash updraft into the air and get taken out, and not in the good way. One of the great things about this combo is just how off guard it can catch your enemies. As mentioned before, this is an incredibly good combo when the enemy is sitting behind a smoke waiting for players to try and push through, and it really does throw them for a loop when a Jett just comes dashing and flying through. The weapons this combo is best versus are shotguns, pistols, and operators, and you can even get away with doing it versus rifles and SMGs too, but it's a little bit riskier because they are fully automatic, so this is best done with a second player there to trade you. Moving on to our fifth pro tip to carry games as Jett though, and this one is the most important one: abuse off angles. I recommend doing this pretty much every single round. The reason Jett is so effective is because she can literally be in the worst position ever and just dash to safety immediately. That's why I recommend that, and I want to be specific when I say this. When it is a safe decision, you should try to use off angles as much as possible. Only do this when it's a safe decision though. You shouldn't go standing in Narnia if you know the enemies are going to flash you before they enter sight. But if they don't have any flashes alive, or you think likely they will be dry peeking an angle, maybe it's a good idea to boost up on top of a box and take your engagement from high up. Only a few characters can play on top of certain structures in Valorant, so it's very likely the enemy won't expect you to be in these positions, and utilizing these you can often pick up free kills in your games, making it difficult for the enemies to compete with you. The best part is, even if you don't have great aim, off angles are an amazing way to give yourself an advantage so that you almost always have the upper hand in your engagements. One of the best ways to deal with players who have better aim than you is by making it difficult for them to land their shots, and playing off angles is an amazing way to do that. Going off of that, this is a perfect way to segue into our next tip, which is play aggressively, but in a smart way. Jett is made to be an aggressive agent, and if you're playing her too passively, you're going to struggle a little bit to carry. We've all been in those games where our teammates seem to always die early on in the round, and it feels like we're always in a 1v5. This is a frustrating situation to deal with. However, as a duelist, it is quite literally your job to take duels. So try to make sure that if it looks like one of your teammates is going to take a fight early, you are there with them. Your goal as a duelist should be to create space for your team and help them get on site, and these are two very difficult things to do if you're not being active in the game and looking for those engagements that favor you. And the perfect thing about Jett is that if an engagement does not favor you, you can immediately dash out towards safety and live to give your team more opportunities throughout the rest of the round. Because of this specifically, when your dash is up, you can afford to play a little bit riskier and a little bit more aggressive. Because you have this safety net, you should learn to take advantage of it. However, if you don't have your dash up, you're going to want to make smarter decisions, because if you get taken out, it can be really bad for your team, since after you get taken out, you significantly reduce the impact you can have on the round. Moving on though, our next tip is to know how your team can help you. This is something most players struggle with, but a really good sign of a good player is someone who is not only focusing on what their character can do, but also focusing on what other characters characters can do so they can bring a plan together. The simplest form of this is asking an Omen to smoke a specific location. However, for Jett, you can set up some really amazing plays by asking for specific breach flashes or Omen flashes. It may seem obnoxious to you to have to ask for these things, almost as if you're playing multiple agents at the same time, but especially at lower ranks, these are the things that you're going to have to do to help your team win games. Remember, if you're looking to climb in your games, you should always think of yourself as an expert in the match. Theoretically, if you feel you belong at a higher rank than the one you are at, that means that you should be the best player in the lobby. Prove that you are by not only showing a mastery of one character, but also showing the understanding of how the other characters work together to bring your team closer to victory. Jett is already an incredibly strong agent as she is. The only thing that would make her stronger is if she had a flash. Ironically though, she does have a flash, and his name is Breach. Learn how to lead your team effectively, and you will easily carry games with Jett. Moving on to our next tip though, which has to do with mouse sensitivity actually. Now keep in mind, sensitivity is all preference, so it's really up to you in the end what you choose. However, remember when you're playing Jett, you're going to need to be doing a lot of clearing angles and looking around, so you're likely going to want to be playing on a sensitivity in which you can comfortably do that. Now, don't go cranking your sensitivity up all the way so you can spin around in circles really fast, because you still need to make sure that you can comfortably aim when playing. But to give you some perspective, I went through and I added up the average EDPI of a number of pro players who play Jett, and it came out to be 290 EDPI. If you want to figure out what 290 EDPI would be in game for you, all you have to do is take 290 and divide it by whatever your mouse's DPI is set at, and it will give you your in-game sensitivity. From there, you're welcome to adjust it up or down to whatever feels comfortable for you so that you can make sure that you are always landing some nasty shots. Realistically though, if you already feel really comfortable on your sensitivity, just ignore this tip and we'll move on to the next one, which is learn how to use the operator if you haven't already. We all know by now Jett is by far the best op user in Valorant, and although you don't need to op when you play Jett, knowing how to do so can be really important for stopping those teams that just seem to rush everything. Not only is the op great for rushes though, it's also phenomenal for carrying because it gives you the ability to get kills so early into the round that you can flat out win rounds for your team. If you pick off the enemy's Brimstone 2 seconds into the round, it's going to make it incredibly difficult for them to execute onto any site without smokes. Not only that though, but there's also the mental aspect of using an operator that just absolutely destroys teams. We've all had it before where our team just starts losing their mind because the enemy Jett bought an operator. You should try to be that enemy Jett who buys the operator. It's an incredibly strong tool in the game, and you might as well learn to use it anyways, because every time a teammate picks up an op, they're going to throw it your way anyway, so it only makes sense to learn how to use it effectively. When you combine using the operator with abusing off angles like we talked about earlier, you make it almost impossible for enemies to deal with you. They can only smoke off so many locations, and when Jett is constantly standing above smokes or off in the middle of nowhere, it can almost feel like there's nothing you can do to deal with her. When people complain about Jett being broken, this is specifically what they were referring to. Her ability to play ridiculous off angles with an operator and avoid being punished for it, you should abuse this as much as you can. Lastly, on a similar note, our last tip is that you should switch up your positions as much as possible, especially when you have an operator. Don't just play the same spot every single round. If you're playing on Haven, one round use the operator on A long, and the next round go play C long. Maybe one round you want to peek out of garage doors, maybe another round you want to watch mid. Maybe one round you want to peek up short. You guys get the point. Try to predict where you think the enemies will push and look for a free kill at the start of every round. There are so many off angles you can play on every single map. Make it a goal to abuse all of these throughout your games. By doing this, you're making your engagements easy for you to win, and with that, it makes your games easy to win. The second you become predictable as a player is the second the enemies will start taking advantage of it. Don't be a one-trick pony. Nobody likes one-trick ponies. Lastly, remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then be sure to check out skillcap.com. Link in the description below. That's going to do it for this Jett guide though today. I hope I was able to help you all become a better Jett player. I'm going to be honest, lately it's been kind of hard to find footage of any other agent besides Jett because it seems like every single pro is constantly playing Jett in their ranked games. So if that doesn't say anything for how strong Jett is right now, I don't know what does. I highly recommend you give Jett a shot if you haven't played her all that much and see if she fits your playstyle because her carry potential really is just that strong. Other than that though, make sure you leave a comment below of who you think the best Jett player in Valorant is. And that's all we've got for you today. As always, I'm the King Live, and we here at Skill Capped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.